All right, here we have a basic 6 practice sheet. Plan is for this to happen next Friday, Halloween. Give you a good reason to roll my house that night. We'll see. I need you guys to start doing things the way it's modeled to you, not your own way. Your own way isn't working. It's not Burger King. You don't get it your way, do it my way. Math is legit common sense. The opposite of division is multiplication. 7 both sides. The goal here is the elimination of the fraction. So that's going to leave me with twice a 4x minus 5 on the left-hand side. And 7 times 8's been 56 forever, always will be. And you could divide the two out if you wanted to, or you could do the distributive property. It's really up to you. I would say most kids would do the distributive property because your number sense isn't what it needs to be. And who knows if I have a nice even number next time. But if we just do the distributive property, we'll have 8x minus 10 equals 56. Next move is to add 10 to both sides. 8x would be 56 plus 10, which is 66. Last move, divide by 8. Obviously, we simplified. Those are both even numbers, right? I believe 66 is divisible by 2. That'd be 33, and I'm pretty sure that 8 is divisible by 2. As tired as I am, it'd be 4. 33 quarters. Number 2 has always been a bad problem since about 2019, and it will probably continue to be a problem moving forward. For some reason, absolute value is not what it used to be. What we're going to do is we're going to isolate absolute value first. You always isolate absolute value. That's what you do. Isolate it. So I'm going to go through the same process I did last time. I'm going to 4 both sides. Make sure that you 4 everything on the right-hand side. 4's cancel on the left. We do not distribute the 4. They cancel. Leaves me with 3 absolute values of 8x minus 4 equal to 28 minus 12x. I'm using the distributive property. 28 is not divisible by 3, so I wouldn't do that. You are allowed to multiply or distribute inside absolute value bars because they're linear. It's a line. They're straight things. That's going to give you the absolute value of 24x minus 12 equal to 28 minus 12x. Now, after you isolate absolute value, you write 2 equations. Forgive me for being jittery. I've had about 4 hours of sleep and I'm on my 3rd energy drink. But you write 2 equations. The first one is as is. It is 24x minus 12 equal to 28 minus 12x. Or the second one, which I'll do down here, we change these signs. And this is a hard part, and this is why it always goes so bad. We have to change both those signs. And now we solve, okay? I'm going to add 12x to 24x. That's going to give me 36x. I'm going to add 12 to 28. That's going to give me 40. I'm going to divide both sides by 36. I'm going to reduce the fraction. 40 and 36 are both divisible by 4. 40 divided by 4 is 10. 36 divided by 4 is 9. If you don't believe me, you are welcome to push buttons in a calculator. Some of you, I wish you wouldn't. Some of you, I wish you would, because your math just isn't what it needs to be, right? And then we hit math, enter, enter. 10/9. All right. Next one, let's just shift left because I don't know, for some reason y'all haven't figured out you can go both ways in algebra. Negative 24 plus 12 is negative 12x. And then 28 minus 12, I feel like that's 16. I divide out the negative 12. Both of these are divisible by 4. I would get negative 4/3. So there's my 2 answers. And absolute value always has 2 answers. It always does. It always will. It's how absolute value works. One of them might be extraneous. You may not realize that until you look at a graph. But for the purpose of this problem, we're just going with it, okay? We're writing our 2 equations and we're solving. All right, number 3, find the roots, which are also known as zeros, by factoring and using the zero product property of 3x squared plus 10x minus 8. And you got to show your work, kids. You got to show your work. Plain and simple. Got to show your work. All right, so let's factor this bad boy. I know that it's a trinomial, so I'm going to open up a double set of parentheses. I'm finding the zeros, so I'm going to set it equal to 0, so I can use zero product property. So 3x squared is going to be 3x and x. Factors of 8, probably 4 and 2. And let's go ahead and make a mistake, because you're learning a technique called guess and check. That's a 4x, and that's a 6x. The goal, hey, I didn't make a mistake. I thought I was going to. The goal is to get to 10, right? But, and it's a big but, the product has to be negative. That wouldn't work, would it? So, I did make a mistake. Thought very briefly it was going to work. It wasn't. Let's switch those numbers around. You got to be careful. Put a 4 here and a 2 there. Now the outside makes 12x and the inside makes 2x. Now a 2 times a negative 4 would be negative 8, or vice versa, a negative 4 times a 2. I need to get to plus 10, so I've got to take away the 2 and add the 4. Time to use zero product property. 3x minus a 2 is a 0, or x plus 4 is a 0. And if 3x minus 2 is 0, we're going to add 2, and then we're going to divide by 3. We're going to get 2/3 as next value. If x plus 4 is a 0, we're simply going to take away 4 from both sides, and x is negative 4. Not that hard. All right, off to the ACT stuff, which is not a bonus, never has, never will be. What is the equation of a circle centered at negative 9, 12 with a radius of 7? You are 100% expected to know previous content. The STD form of a circle is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equal to the radius squared. The center gives you the letters h and k, and radius obviously stands, R is obviously for radius. There's something else it could be, but I can't say that on YouTube. Anyways, moving forward. If we take away a negative, we're positive. Take away a positive, you know it's going to be negative. And we're supposed to square 7. You know, what is 7 squared? Well, that's 49, I believe. I believe I learned my squares just like y'all did. 49. Full equation. All right, so the next ACT is a trig question. And trig is so easy, at least the stuff you learn in geometry. It's so easy. The problem is y'all can't spell SOHCAHTOA. But it's SOHCAHTOA. I want tangent. This is what I'm after. The tangent of an angle is equal to the opposite side over the adjacent side. So my tension's at A, okay? I'm going to label everything. This would be the hypotenuse. I don't need that thing. 5 is across the room, or opposite of. 5 roots of 3 is adjacent. Adjacent means you touch the angle of interest, but you're not the hypotenuse as far as y'all are concerned. Now this one's a little bit difficult because when you set it up, you're going to get what we call a radical in the denominator. You're going to have 5 over 5 root 3. You should know that the 5s cancel, leaves you with 1 over root 3. And don't hate the player, hate the game here. It was decided about 400 years ago that that's not a good looking number. You're supposed to rationalize the denominator. And you do that by multiplying both the denominator and the numerator by whatever the denominator is, because it magically cleans itself out. It's kind of cool. You're supposed to know that because you took geometry. But if you take a radical and you multiply it by itself, you legit get the number inside. And 1 times root of 3 is simply a root of 3. So root of 3 over 3. And you may or may not remember this, but this was actually a special triangle. This was a 30, 60, 90 triangle. It was. That was a 30, 60, 90. All right, rewrite the quadratic in vertex form into standard form. And I noticed, given some quizzes last week, that this was a very weak skill. That's why it's on this basics quiz, because it is a basic skill and it needs to be worked on. So that's why I put it there. The question is will those of you that have been struggling actually sit down and take the time to figure it out? My money says no. Prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. Show up and do it, kids. First thing, when you square something, you are supposed to write it 2 times. Now, your math teacher would put his emphasis on those pieces right there. You need to figure out what x plus 4 times x plus 4 is. I'm just going to go ahead and do vertical multiplication here. There's probably a reason we don't teach vertical multiplication with x's, because the time symbol looks like multiplication x, but whatever. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times x is 4x. This is for you, Lane Gallimore, because I know you don't like vertical multiplication. X times 4 is 4x. And by the way, in 4th grade, you put a 0 there as a placeholder. X times x is x squared, and that 4x was positive. And then we just add down. Nothing plus x squared is x squared. 4x plus 4x is 8x. And 16 plus 0 is 16. All right, so moving forward, I have figured this piece out to be x squared plus 8x plus 16. And if you don't like vertical multiplication, you don't have to do it. I'm just doing it to show it. You do whatever you want. I don't specify. That's what I have right now. Do not be the kid who tries to put these pieces together. Remember order of operations. Please for parentheses, E for exponents, M multiply or divide, and then add and subtract. A lot of people are confused by PEMDAS. And there's a good chance you're listening to this video muted. You don't even have the subtitles on. Decent chance. And that's what we have so far. I distributed the 3, by the way, and I'm just going to keep combining like terms. And again, please prove Milbrath wrong. Please make me smile. I am so tired. Please make me smile. Do wonderful. Don't do it for you. Do it for me. All right, basic function notation. You are given that f of x is 5x minus 7 and g of x is 4x minus 5. You are tasked with finding both f of negative 3 and what's called f plus g of negative 3. So, yeah, it's an issue for a lot of kids. You guys have zoned out for pretty much all of high school. But when you talk about f of negative 3, what we've done is do a lineup process with f of x. We are literally saying x is negative 3. That's what is being said. So everywhere I see an x, I am simply a negative 3. And I don't know why this is so hard for a large number of students to grasp. F notation just does something to kids. Anyways, 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. And then if you take away 7, you get negative 22. All right, moving on to 6. 6 says f plus g of negative 3. What that means is you find f of negative 3 and you add to it g of negative 3. And I want you to pay attention that we already know what f of negative 3 is. So what we really have to do is we have to go off to the side and we have to figure out what g of negative 3 is. And again, that means every x in g is negative 3. So here's g. It's 4 times a negative 3, then take away 5. That's going to be negative 12. And negative 12 take away 5 is negative 17. And again, we already found f of negative 3 earlier. It's negative 22. This was plus a negative 17, which is going to be a negative 39. I'm going to do 7, 8, and take a small break. Maybe a nap. We'll see. Factor f of x equals 2x squared minus 3x. Sorry, it doesn't say factor. What's wrong with me? Why is this here? I want this gone. That was not the button. I never can remember how to get rid of that thing. It's right there. All right, find the average rate of change over the interval. I fully expect this one to be missed by half my student body. It is probably the 10th time that I have given you a question on a quiz or a test asking you to find average rate of change, and I still fully expect to be missed by half my students. because he won't memorize. The formula for average rate of change is f of b minus f of a sitting pretty over b minus a. That is the formula, kids. That is what it is. We get a and b here. Yeah, by the way, if you know somebody who can't do this, please show them how to do it, because I'm tired of it being missed. So I'm going to find f of b by plugging in a 2. And I know this is bad. I've watched kids make mistakes here. I don't know why. I've been letting you use a calculator, but we have a 2. Let's just use a storage feature. Take a 2, store to x. What do we have? We have 2x squared minus 3x. Ta-da! It's 2. Like, you'll be able to use a calculator. We also need to know f of negative 1, which is 2 times a negative 1 squared minus 3 times a negative 1, which is going to be 2 plus 3, which is 5. So I found those pieces, right? F of b was 2. F of a is going to be 5, so take away 5. It's sitting pretty over 2 minus a negative 1. And that's going to give me a negative 3 over 3, which happens to be a negative 1. I don't want number 8 on here. So let me pause this and see if I want to change it to anything else. I've already done something like number 8, so give me just a moment. So yeah, I just removed number 8. You guys won't even see that it was ever there in the first place. So yours will just jump from 7 to 9. I didn't want it in there. We'd already talked about it. All right, the following is known about function f. It says f of negative 3 is a 0. Let me say what that is saying in words. Okay, this guy right here, it says f of negative 3 is a 0. That, like you see it says equals 0. That means that x equals negative 3 is a 0. That's what that means. All right. I'm only looking at the things that are zeros. This one says when x equals 4, y equals 2. I don't want that. This one says when x equals 5, y is 0. I want that one. The next one doesn't talk about that. The last one says when x equals 0, y equals 0. So what you need to understand here is some of these are telling us certain things. Let's think about these as ordered pairs. We have negative 3, 0. Jumping over here, we have 5, 0. And jumping over here, we have 0, 0. Now, what are all of these things? These are all x-intercepts. So by now, you should have learned how to turn an x-intercept into a factor. You should have learned that. Turn an x-intercept into a factor. We use this idea that a factor is x minus the x-intercept. That's all it is, x minus the x-intercept. So here's what I know. I know that a factor is x plus 3. I know that a factor is x minus 5. And I know that a factor is x minus 0. And nobody is going to write that down. Nobody who knows a lick about math is going to write that down. They're going to write x plus 3 times x minus 5 times x. And anybody who would author a textbook or has done math for a long time would put that smallest factor x out front. That's just how we do it. It looks best. Now, they're also talking about a leading coefficient of a being 3. So we've done general form already. General form for a quadratic, which this is not, is y equals a times x minus p times x minus q, right? This is a cubic. For a cubic, it's y equals a times x minus p times x minus q times, I don't know, x minus r, where p Q, and R are roots or zeros. So the leading coefficient of 3 has got to be thrown right out front. And there's your equation in factored form. We're going to spend some time on that too. At the time I did this video, we haven't talked about this, but I know that we will have talked about this stuff. At least we talked about some of it, but not all of it. But it's just an extension of something that has been done already. All right, number 10, something really old, back from either late August or early September. The arithmetic sequences, which nobody ever likes. You're supposed to write a rule for this sequence, and because it's arithmetic, I have a formula that I can use. It says that a sub n is the first term plus the common difference times n minus 1. That's the rule. There's the first term. Your difference would be how far apart these numbers are. Like it's 14 minus 6, which is 8. There's 8 units between them. So everywhere I see a D, I'm going to put an 8. And I'm not going to put anything for n. N is just the unknown. It's the position of the term. So anywho, the nth term must be a -2 plus 8 times n minus 1. And we'll use that distributive property. The nth term is -2 plus 8n minus 8. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but your goal was kind of like to look like y equals mx plus b. That's always the goal. So the nth term is going to be 8n minus 10. Now, does this work? Now how do I check that it's right? So hopefully you agree that the second term is 6. I know the second term is 6. So if I let n equal 2, I expect a 6 back. That's what I expect. So let's find a sub 2. A sub 2 should be 8 times a 6 minus a 10. Well, I know that's 48. Sorry, I don't know why I put a 6 in there. It's 8 times 2 minus 10, which is 16 minus 10, which by golly is 6. So it's working, and you should check it again, obviously, but I know I didn't make any mistakes. So there's what she is. She's 8n minus 10. All right, number 11, a line has a slope of -1/3 passed through the point -9, 4 was the equation of this line in slope-intercept form. I know that Garner and Cantrell, and I would do it too, but I've kind of stopped being a fan of it. They would have you use what's called point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. It's not working. So what I want you all to use is I want you to use this form, y equals a times x minus h plus k. This gives you h, that gives you k. And a is slope. It's so much quicker. It is so much quicker. So we've got -1/3 of x minus a -9, and then plus a 4. And every time we see minus a negative, we should always make that plus plus. The next property you're going to use starts with a D. Hopefully you know what it is. We're going to distribute that -1/3. And, I know it's a rough issue, but that's a -3 of 9 is -3. And then you do your plus 4, right? You don't do it here, you do it here. You multiply, and then you worry about adding or subtracting. And if you put -3 and a 4 together, I think you get a 1. I want to say that 2 out of 3 kids got that problem right on the last basics quiz, but it's been nearly a month and I don't honestly remember, but it was not great. I did not put a transformation on this one, so the grades will be a little higher this time around. But I'm also not giving any bonus points like I have been either. So, all right, 12, graph f of x equals 2x squared plus 8x minus 3 by finding the vertex, the line of symmetry, the y-intercept, and one other point using the line of symmetry. So if I just see a graph with no work, it's wrong. I'm not giving you stuff because you can push buttons in a TI-84. I know you could look at the graph on a TI-84. I know that. Everybody does. you're going to learn how to graph by hand. So your vertex, the H corner of your vertex has been opposite B over 2A for a while. I know we're struggling with that. I can also think of at least 5 kids who, for the life of you, can't pick out A, B, and C, and you need to fix that. The form is AX squared plus BX plus C. It's a simple lineup process. A is 2, B is 8, and C is -3. I don't need C today, I just needed A and B. So anyways, opposite of a +8 is a -8. That's sitting over twice A, which is 2. And if you do know a kid who can't pick out A, what A is, will you please help them? Because they're about to be in a world of hurt. Actually, they probably already are in a world of hurt. So that's how you find H. To find K, you're going to take that thing, you're going to plug it in. You're going to go back to your equation. Everywhere I see an X, I'm going to be a -2. So twice a -2 squared plus 8 -2's, and then take away a 3. And as much as I would love for you to work this out by hand, you don't have time. Push buttons in a calculator, kids. I'm going to do it by hand. This creates a +4 times 2 is 8. This creates -16. 8 minus 16. Boy, I'm out of it. 8 minus 16 is -8. Take away 3 more, you get -11. So there's your vertex. She's at -2, -11. So I'm going to fall back 2, and I feel like the bottom of this thing is -11. It is. So fall back 2 and down 11. I am asking you to find a y-intercept. You let x be 0. That is not a high-level math skill. If you're on the y-axis, x is 0. They've been talking with you all about that since 7th grade. I don't know what's wrong with you. That is not anything new. So my y-intercept is simply found by plugging in a 0. Twice a 0 squared plus 8 times a 0, and then minus a 3. And I hope you understand that's -3. You don't need to push buttons. 0 plus 0 is 0. Take away 3, -3. It'd be really cool if you gave me that to me as an ordered pair. X was 0, Y is -3. And I do need you to draw in a line of symmetry. Your line of symmetry passes. It looked like an I there for a second, didn't it? Almost wrote something else. Passes through, would have been funnier that way, the vertex. So it's a vertical line that passes right through the vertex. So I have a point that is 2 units to the right of my line of symmetry, which means I also have a point that's 2 units to the left of my line of symmetry. And there we go. You didn't have to find the x-intercepts on this one. You won't have to on the quiz either. You won't. But anyways, the equation of that line of symmetry was x equals -2. It's always whatever you have for h. It's literally x equals h. That's all it is. All right, domain, every stinking parabola in algebra 2 runs left forever, runs right forever. The range changes. This one has a low y value of -11, and it has a high y value of infinity. The k coordinate's always involved in range. It might be on the left or the right, but it's always there. And that's 12. I'm going to pause real quick before I do the next section, just because I need a small mental break. The brain's tired. Anyways, BRB. All right, back to this. Your favorite section. For some of you, it is. I know some of you guys are probably listening to this on mute, but so I want to write this out for y'all. If you plan on taking dual, can't even spell dual enrollment math next year, make sure you understand this. Like, no ifs, ands, buts. Like, you need to sit down and you need to either figure it out for yourself or you need to find somebody who does. You should not progress to a college eligible course if you cannot read a graph. I mean that. Make sure you understand it. Make sure you understand. All right, so anyways, back to it. State the domain. Domain is going to be your x values. And I know a lot of us have XY confusion. I know we do. But here's the smallest x value. It's at -6. And we run right until we run into what we call a hole in the graph. And x is not there. So we get really close to -4, but we don't get to be -4. And then we jump it. It's actually legit called a jump in math. We jump to the other side of -4, and x is good all the way until we hit 2. There's no x there's no x equals 2 because there's a hole here and a hole here. So we literally have to jump to the other side of the 2. So union with 2 all the way to, it looks like close to 7 with a parentheses 2, because those were holes in graphs. They were not solid. More kids can do domain than they can range. Range is going to be your y values, your low y value, your high y value. And I just wish I knew how I could make this click for those of you that it doesn't click for. So let me just make a small table, and it's going to take some time here. But does everybody agree that y can be -3? I hope you do. Do we agree that even though y can't be -2 here, it can be here? Because the graph's solid there. And y can be -1. And even though y can't be 0 here, it can be 0 over here. Do we agree that y can be 1? Solidity. Do we agree that y can be 2? Solidity. Do we agree that y can be 3? Not here, but anywhere else it can. So the range is simply -3 to 3. Just think about a little table, kids. A straight up boring table. All right. Increasing means uphill. And this graph is increasing from here to here, and from here to here, and there to there. There's actually 3 spots where the graph is increasing. Nothing's happening in the hole. Nothing. It is increasing from x values of -6 to -4. Those are x values that are report. And x values of -4 to 2. And finally, x values of 2 to 6. Notice I'm saying x values, not y values. It's about the input variable, the x. Decreasing means downhill. And on this graph, it's not applicable. There's no place. So on this question, there are none. Does not exist. 17, state intervals where the graph is constant. Constant is a flat line. That's all a constant is. Think about y equals a constant. It's just a horizontal line. That's all it is. And that particular interval is going to happen from here to here. And again, it's about the x values that make it such. It is constant for x values from -2 to 2. X-intercepts. Oh, I want to yell and scream at y'all. 25% of my students cannot find an x-intercept. 25% of the junior class of Dresden High School cannot find an x-intercept. God bless. That's all I got to say. There's only one. It's right there. That's a hole. There's nothing in a hole. The only x-intercept that exists is at 4, 0. That's it. And the same 25% that can't find an x-intercept can't find a y-intercept. It's literally right there. It's at 0, 3. Maybe it's the order of pairs that are bugging you, but that's what it is. And then a full 2 and 3 can't do slope on a graph. I know you exist. I do. I want it to click. I do. I don't know of any other way to show you how to do this other than to go old school, middle school mentality. We are going to put a dot on the graph where x is -6. It's right there. We're going to put a dot on the graph where x is 2. Interesting. Probably should have chosen something else. So by the time you see this quiz, we're going to have this as a 1. Okay? X is 1 right there. Now, what's the average rate of change there? Well, average rate of change is nothing more than rise over run. That's all average rate of change has ever been. Let's see, let's count blocks. We rose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We rose 6, and we ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There you go, it's 6, 7. Find f of 2 if it does not exist, state why. F of 2 does not exist. D&E. Why? There's holes in the graph at x equals 2. That particular question is missed by such a large number of kids. You don't realize when there's an open circle. An open circle means there's nothing there. Find f of 4 if it does not exist, state why. And that should be, well, f of 4 does exist. F of 4 is right there, and it is 0. And the last question on here, if x equals 2 were graphed on the same plane, sorry, if f of x equals 2 were graphed on the same plane, what solutions would there be to the new system? So again, think of this as y equals -2, which you're supposed to know how to graph, and I know you don't, but this is what it would do. It would pass through a hole, and there's nothing in a hole, so this is the only actual intersection. 1. There would be one solution to the system. That's it. All right, then we have the bonuses. Given f of x is 3x squared minus 4x plus 6, and g of x is 2x plus 1, find f composed of g of x. This is f of g of x. And that means that every x in f becomes g. So I see an x, it's going to become 2x plus 1. And I got to write it twice because it's squared. I see an x, it's going to become 2x plus 1. And then plus 6. I'm going to have to do some more work here. I did not leave myself enough room. 2x plus 1 is going to be 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. And then, when I'm done, I'm going to eventually add, I've got to take this stuff away. So take away 8x, take away 4, and then I get to add 6. So I've still got to do this too, right? It's going to be 12x squared plus 12x plus 3. 12x squared, take away 8x, sorry, 12x squared, can't be combined with anything. 12x take away 8x. I lost my place here. That's supposed to be a 6. That's just throwing me off. 12x take away 8x is 4x. And 6 and 3 makes 9. So that's the final answer to the first bonus. All right, second bonus is to find f of g of -2. This means f of g of -2. And this is your first experience here. But what we're going to do is we're going to find g of -2 and plug the result into f. So g of -2 is simply 4 times the -2 take away 3, which is -11. And now what we're going to do is we're going to find f of -11. And I'm going to do this verbally to some degree. 11 squared is 121, times 2 is going to be 242. 4 times -11 is -44, and then -3. So that's going to give me 195 when everything's said and done. All right, last one. Find f of x plus h minus f of x. So I need to figure out what f of x plus h is first. That means that every x I encounter is an x plus h. Also, if you're going to take dual enrollment, make sure you understand this. X plus h times x plus h is x squared plus an hx plus an hx, so plus 2xh plus an h squared. And then minus 3x minus 3h. So I'm going to put that right there. x squared. Oh, I forgot the 2, didn't I? 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h. And look what it says next. Take away f of x. So take away all, hence the parentheses, of 2x squared minus 3x. Don't be alarmed if this bothers you. I've done this for years. It bothers a lot of kids. But if you're going to take dual enrollment math, you need to sit down and figure it out. If it's in here, it cancels out here. That leaves me with 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3h over h. And each of the 4 pieces of this rational expression contain an h. So gone, 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 exponent changes to 1. 4x minus 3 plus twice h is the result. I just barely finished that in time, didn't I? Anyway, I'd love to say you enjoyed that, but you probably didn't. But anyways, good luck on your quiz.